such an expert, but I can just say that the minhag to dedicate these weeks that begin with Shemois Va'era. Shovavim is the Roshei Tevis of Shemois Va'era Boy B'Shalach Yisroi Mishpatim. The minhag to dedicate these weeks to tshuva and even fasting for the purpose of tshuva is already mentioned in the Sefer Minhagim of Rabbi Isaac Tirna, who lived in the 15th century, and his Sefer is the source for many of the Minhagei Ashkenaz. He lived in Germany. The minhag was embraced by the Arizal. It's quoted in the Magen Avram in Siman Tov Reish Pei Hey. The Arizal attributes this to the fact that during these weeks we read in the Torah about Golus Mitzrayim and the Geula from Golus Mitzrayim, and therefore this is a time, according to the Arizal, when there's a special opportunity for somebody who's stuck in a place where he doesn't want to be or where he shouldn't be. Somebody that's trapped in a pattern, in a negative pattern of negative behavior, and this is a time of opportunity to redeem himself and bring himself to a better place. Just like Geulas Mitzrayim, the word Shovavim comes from the pasuk in Yirmiyah, Shuvu Banim Shovavim. Wayward children, Banim Shovavim is kind of like, adults that act in a childish way. Wayward meaning living a life that's not governed by a guiding principle. Wandering, without direction or purpose. Banim Shovavim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls out to these banim, shuvu, return, meaning that don't identify with the place that you're in, because really you're in Mitzrayim in the sense of Meitzorim, constraints. Your potential is held back.
What he thinks, and I think
be free. So the pshat is that what does it mean be free? Sometimes we have a difficult time understanding that concept of freedom, because it says b'hoitziacha es ha'om hazeh miMitzrayim tavdun es ha'elokim al ha'or hazeh. So it seems like instead of serving Paroi, we're serving Lahavdil HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it's we're still serving. We say Hallelu, Avdei Hashem. Chazal say Avdei Hashem, V'loi Avdei Paroi. So we're not the slaves of Hashem. We're not the slaves of Paroi. We're the slaves of Hashem. I mean, what's the benefit? We're still slaves. Chazal say Ein Lucha Ben Chorin Ela Misha Oisek Batorah. We darshan, it says Chorus al haluchos, engraved in the tablets. Al tikri Chorus elo cherus. Don't read it as engraved. Chorus, read it as cherus. Freedom, liberty. What does that mean? What does that mean? Because on the surface, it looks like it's just engraved. On the surface, it looks like the discipline is forced on us, that we're being coerced. But the truth is that this discipline is actually self-discipline. It's cherus al haluchos. But for that, you have to have tamu u're'u ki tov Hashem. You have to taste it. Because the more a person connects with Torah, the more chorus, the more engraved Torah becomes within us. We reveal the real self, which is B'Tselem Eloikim Osa Esa Odom. And there's nothing sweeter than self-discipline, self-regulation. We become redeemed from being enslaved, from serving society, reacting to influences from the outside. We experience our own self, our Tselem Elokim, the me who I really want to be. I become free to be me. That's the idea of Ein Lecha Ben Chorin. The Chorus brings Cherus. Ein Lecha Ben Chorin Elo Mishoisik B'Torah. So, the first step obviously is to create a space between me and my thought. Developing the ability to make choices. Sacrificing long-term self-respect for instant gratification is not a choice, it's an impulse. We all, if we think sanely, we realize that many things we do actually bring us down. And it's not the me who I want to be. So we need to create that space. And besides, for everything else, Torah is really a self-help manual. If we connect with Torah and we allow ourselves to be disciplined by Torah, so it's Tamu Uru'uki Tov Hashem, will gain, first of all, a sense of self-respect, will be able to accomplish our long-term goals. Today we all know that the ability to wait for delayed rewards is a key to all success. One cannot be successful in anything if he lives the now and here without the ability to focus on the long term. And that's the Havei Mechashev Schar Aveira Keneged Hefseido. The Schar Aveira is instant, and the Hefseido is long term. Everybody would be able to, the marshmallow choice, but it's now or in 10 minutes, now or in a week. But everybody, if he would be offered X amount of whatever in a year and double that amount in a year and a week, everybody would have the ability to choose the double amount in a year and a week. We only have difficulty when it's now and a week from now, because in the now, it's instant gratification that doesn't allow us to make the choice, the same choice that we want to make. It doesn't allow us. And that's the Ein Lecha Ben Chorin Elo Mishoisik B'Torah. The more we internalize Torah, so we develop the ability to make choices, and with that we can succeed. Begashmius uberuchnius. That Avada, it's easier, like everything else in life, it's easier said and talked about than done and accomplished. But it's, every baby step in the right direction is a step forward in the right, in getting where we want to get to. The Yetzer Hara, Chazal tell us the Yetzer Hara is Hayoim Oime Lo Yasei Kach, V'Hayoim Oime Lo Yasei Kach, Ad Sheoime Lo Lech Avoid Zara. The Yetzer Hara doesn't begin with, all. One little step in the wrong direction. Tomorrow he tells you another step in the wrong direction, and the next day another step in the wrong direction, until he has you completely gone. So Avada Meruba Midah Toiva Midas Puranus. Avada, we could also apply that method. These years that we spend in yeshiva, years that we spend in Eretz Yisrael, those of you that are spending this time in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, it's a time of opportunity to take a step back, to create that space, and to develop the ability to make choices, to make real choices, long-term choices, and not live just in the here and now. And Memela with Siyata D'Shmaya, there's we shall all be able to overcome what needs to be overcome, and move ourselves in the right direction, and have the ability, once a person has control of himself, he experiences his real self, and he has the ability to enjoy life in a real way and enjoy kirvas Elokim, enjoy a sense of closeness with the Creator, because when the Tzelem Elokim is brought forth, he enjoys closeness with the Creator. And that's actually the greatest enjoyment that a human being can have. And that's the Tamu Uru'u Ki Toiv Hashem. But without the Tamu, we never know it. So that's what really the Shuvu Bonim Shovavim, the return of the wayward children. That's what the message of these weeks is about. In this week's Parsha, the first three psukim of the Parsha are Vayidaber Elokim El Moshe, Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem. Vahiro El Avram, El Yitzchok, Vel Yaakov, Bekel, Shakai, Ushmi Hashem, Lo Noidati Lohem. V'gam Aki Moisi Es Brisi Itom, Lo Seis Lohem Es Eretz Canaan, Es Eretz Mugurei, Mashigoru Bo. Only the fourth pasuk says, "V'gam ani shamati es nakas b'nei Yisrael Hashem Mitzrayim ma'avidim oisam va'esker es brisi lochein amer levnei Yisrael." I'm going to take you out of Mitzrayim. Now, the first three psukim seem to be out of context, because already the last pasuk in the previous parsha said, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, ato sireh, now you will see, asher eseh lefaroi, what I shall do to Paroi, ki v'yod chazaka, Yishalchem, ubiyot chazaka, Yugorsh me'atzei." So the Rebbeinu Shalom already says to Moshe that now you will see, I will show you that I will take Yidden out of Mitzrayim. Take Yidden out of Mitzrayim. But that's only the fourth pasuk in this week's Parsha gets back to that topic. The first three psukim seem to be unrelated. He says, Ani Havaya. Then he says, I revealed myself to Avram, to Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Bekel Shin Dalet Yud. But I didn't tell them the Shmi. I didn't reveal the Shmi Havaya. I didn't become known to them with the Shmi Havaya. So what does this have to do with the topic at hand? So Rashi in his second pshat says, "V'Rabbeinu dorshuhu le'inyan shel ma'alo," that this is really a response to what happened earlier towards the end of Parshas Shemos. Sha'amar Moshe lama harei yoisa. Moshe was complaining why Hashem did bad to the Jewish people. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, chaval al da abdin v'lo mishtakhin. Whoa, I mean, to those that are gone and they're no longer with us. Yeshli lehis oinein, I should be complaining al misas ha'avos, on the death of the avos, because harbe pa'omim niglesi aleihem bekel shin daled yud v'lo yomru li nashemecha. And also, kishabikesh Avraham likbor esoro loy motza kever at shekona bedomim merubin. When Avraham wanted to bury his wife Sarah, he didn't find a grave until he bought one for an exaggerated price. And he didn't complain. He wasn't maharher achar midoisai. He didn't question. He didn't question my actions. And you, Moshe Rabbeinu, are questioning me. So this is interesting, because we know that Avram Avinu was tested 10 tests. Basorin Nisyonos Nisnasa Avram Avinu. the greatest of which l'chayre is the Akedah. He was told to sacrifice his own beloved son. And he wasn't maharher achar midoisav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He didn't question. So why are we mentioning something that seems trivial? I mean, to contrast Moshe Rabbeinu's behavior to that of the others, we bring the example of Avraham Avinu not questioning Hashem. In what context? In the context of needing to pay an exaggerated price for the caver of Sarah. It seems to be almost nothing compared to Avraham Avinu's bringing his son to the Akedah. Why are we mentioning this? Actually, this experience that Avraham Avinu had with Ephron when he needed to buy the Ma'aras HaMachpelah is not even one of the Asarin Nisyonis. So obviously, it's a much smaller thing. The Rabbeinu Yoina is one Rishon who actually counts this as the 10th Nisoyan. That also needs to be explained. Why would Hashem need to test Avraham Avinu with this test after he already passed the test of the Akedah? Hashem continues to test him with something that seems to be much smaller of a test, that he was promised Eretz Yisrael, but he wasn't promised when. He was promised Eretz Yisrael, and now he needs to buy a caver. Everybody buys a caver. See, he overpaid. No. How is this considered a test beyond the test of Akedas Yitzchok? It's kind of shocking to us. But we say every day, V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol ma'oidecha. Now, nafshecha, Chazal say, is afilu hu noitelas nafshecha. That one should be willing to give up his life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah, the Gimel Averis Chamuris, one is Yehorik Val Yaver. One is willing to give up his life for the Rebbeinu Shalom. What's B'chol Mo'idecha? B'chol Mo'idecha, one shot in Chazal is, it means all your money. And Rashi in Parshas Veschanon says, why do we need to talk about that after we spoke about giving up your life? Because there are people that are more attached to their money than to their life, and therefore, even after it says B'chol Nafshecha, the Torah adds B'chol Mo'idecha. But Rashi has another pshat in B'chol Mo'idecha, that it means B'chol Mida u'Mida shehu Mo'ideid Lecha. Bein Mida Toiva, Bein Midas Puronus. And then the Rashi quotes the pasuk that it says, Tzara v'yogoin emtza u'v'shem Hashem ekra. And it says, Kois Yeshuais Esa, Uveshem Hashem Ekra. A person has to be able to handle both Mida Toiva and Midas Puronis. A good day and a bad day. Difficulties and triumphs. Bein Mida Toiva, Bein Midas Puronis. So the question is, a person who is willing to give up his life for the sake of Kiddush Hashem, what are we saying? We're adding to that he should also be able to love Hashem, whether he's being treated in a midah toiva or he's being treated in a midas puronis. What's the chiddush? I mean, I'm willing to give up my life. So you see that when it's a question of life and death, sometimes people, rise to the occasion. They reveal within themselves strengths that are not available on a regular day, because it's just like a person is faced with an existential threat of life and death, so he can actually do things that he can't do on a regular day. People can escape a fire in ways that they don't know that they have that ability on a regular day. So therefore, when a person is faced with a nisayon of Kiddush Hashem, b'chol nafshecha, it's a greater nisayon, but in a sense, it's easier to overcome. Whereas when it's just, the daily grind, that's in a sense easier, but in a sense more difficult. It's the war of attrition that the Yetzer Hara wages against us. And sometimes people that have the ability to be v'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha b'chol nafshecha don't have the ability to be v'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol mo'idecha, which is b'chol mida u'mida shehu moided lecha. And the Be'emes, it's interesting that in the Sefer Hasidim, Siman Kuf Nun Hey, he writes, when something comes up, and you know that this is what Hashem wants you to do, you're embarrassed. So you hold back from doing what you know is Hashem's will because you're embarrassed. Or you want to do something, you want to transgress, you want to do something wrong. To do an Aveira. So he says, you should think to yourself, if you would be in a time when you're being persecuted by the nations of the world who are trying to force you to drop your religion. You would be suffering all Yisurim and even death for the sake of the Rebbeinu Shalom. If they would want to kill you, or Yisurim, the kind of Yisurim that you prefer to die than suffer those Yisurim, you would accept it. And all the more so, this Avera that you want to do, is it so hard to hold back? So he's actually saying that a person, when he has a small Nisayan, should think about how he would handle a greater Nisayan. And he should bring out from within himself that he would withstand the greater Nisayan. And that's because he would understand that it's a matter of being connected to Hashem or becoming disconnected. And every machshava, dibur or maisa of a yid counts. There's nothing small. Everything is a matter of life and death. And not only because this particular act is a matter of life and death, but also because, we create habits. And, one step in the wrong direction brings another step in the wrong direction, brings another step in the wrong direction. So the truth of the matter is that you're just fooling yourself by thinking that this is just something small. It's not small at all. Mitzvahs kalois, she'adam dosh ba'akevov, might be that it's kalois in the sense that it's easy to do. It's not a light mitzvah. It's easy to do the mitzvah, or it's easy to not do the Avera. But because it's so easy, it loses its significance in our eyes. And we don't realize that every small step, every small turn is actually something that leads us in the wrong direction. So that's the idea. Now, I say like this. Rabbi Tarragon said that there's a minute, people like to ask questions. Listen, I don't know so I'm open to questions, not that I know that I can answer them, but who's in charge of this thing?
I'm gonna run it. If guys can message me if they want to ask questions, and I'll call on people.
Oh, okay. So that's basically the story. The same idea of Mesiras Nefesh appears in the Sefer Atanya, Perek Chafei, where he also says that a person should remind himself b'shviras hataiva hakala, in breaking a taiva kala, that it's easier than Yisurei Misa. But Yisurei Misa he would take upon himself, and therefore he should understand that every mitzvah and every avera is just as significant. You have to look it up inside. Okay, so what are you saying? Does anybody have anything to say? No, they're all dumbfounded. I mean, it's okay. So I guess everything is so well understood, and everybody is really with me all the way that nobody wants to say anything. Okay. Listen, now that I understand that the dinner is 7:30, so
Okay.
you have some
It's
time.
flexible. It's flexible.
No. So you have some time. Yeah, no, but they have some time to think, and thinking is sometimes it requires yeshiva das. So we can do
Flexible
that.
because we can have it later. We're running the yeshiva ourselves.
Yeah, but wait. No, so but the thing is like this. I mean, Rabbi, what do you say? I mean, we covered the topic. I mean, I need to get.
Think without you. We have precious time with you. We want to take advantage.
But what do you want to think about?
Well, I guess if anyone has any questions on the topic, first let them ask, and then we can.
Okay. Well, I'm
waiting.
It's
because you have questions on these topics.
Yeah, Gabi Katz had a question.
Hi. Yeah, I had a question. When we brought about Avram, not questioning Hashem, don't we have the story with Stone where he does question Hashem in the actions that he wants to do?
Right, and that's interesting. That's a very good question because that context seems to be more related to the context over here, because what Moshe Rabbeinu is questioning over here is not about something that Hashem is doing to him, but rather something that Hashem is doing to the Jewish people, and that could be compared to Avram Avinu trying to intervene on behalf of Sodom, right? And he says, "Hashofet kol haaretz lo yaseh mishpat," whereas the Ma'aseh of Avram Avinu with the Ma'oras HaKvura for Sarah is between him and the Rebbeinu Shalom. So you're asking a very good question. And even though it says that we shouldn't question God, I mean, this is what we're talking about, the topic of not questioning God, but questions in the Torah, I mean, are definitely appropriate. That is a very good question. This is an excellent question. I don't have what to answer, Rabbi Targum. What do you say to that? No, you listen. You're asking very good. The L'chayra over here, he's not asking for himself.
I can't
He's
speak in front of you, but I'll tell
people. What?
Right.
But you see, maybe we could say that over there, he's saying that
by the Akedah Yitzchak in the end of the Parsha, he says nothing, and the answer is
I can't hear. I don't hear. Okay, I can't hear anything.
I think sound is broken.
I couldn't hear what Rabbi Tarragon said. Did you?
I think his internet is.
Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yeah, now I can hear you.
I would say 2 points. First of all, look at the contrast between the Akedah and Stone. By the Akedah, nothing. Not ki b'yitzchak yikara l'chazara, because one is where you're being asked to serve Hashem. Then you don't open your mouth. The other is where Hashem is telling him about somebody else. Why is Hashem telling me about that? So Avram understood that Hashem was telling him so that he should try and understand Hashem's ways. And maybe it's a remez in the beginning of the Parsha where it says that Hashem stood before Avram like you stand in front of a dayan. That Hashem was trying to teach Avram how to learn, how to evaluate and judge and understand Hashem's ways. And especially in light of the Torah of the Rosh Hashiva about Stom being about din and understanding the principles of din. So Avram here was meant to be learning about what the way of Staka Mishpat is.
Very good. And also, I was thinking as you were talking that maybe over there, you see, Avraham Avinu was negotiating with everybody. Shalom. He says, "What about if there are 50 tzaddikim?" In other words, he's not questioning the ruling. He's just saying that maybe if we'll find 50 tzaddikim, maybe we could change it. Maybe
trying
we'll
to understand. He's saying,
but over here, but over here, he's not giving the Rebbeinu Shalom any leeway. He's saying Lama Hariyosa. In other words, he's not saying, maybe we could work something out. He's questioning. So there's a difference.
And he's calling it Ra.
Right,
like the critique of Yaakov Avinu that he said Ma'at V'Roim. He called it Ra.
Right. Okay, Gabby, you accept the answer?
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, you like it. Okay. Oh, Givaldi. Okay, so anybody else?
Yeah, Zach.
Hi. Does Rebbe have any practical tips to help get our minds off the instant gratification, sort of focusing on the long-term goal, just practically?
Any practical? First of all, practical is a key word because practice is what it's about. I mean, it's let's say if you say that for 2 hours a day, I will self-regulate, right? Then you can extend it to 2.5 hours a day. You can extend it to 3 hours a day. I mean, to say a lot of it has to do with practice. I assume that there are a lot of, self-help practices that are used in the general world that can be applied in this context. I'm not so familiar, but the main thing is, first of all, as I say, creating that space between yourself and your thoughts. I mean, and being and wanting to be somewhere else, wanting to be somewhere else, and then developing the ability to act on what you really want is probably a matter of practice. That's a step-by-step thing. I mean, it's a day at a time, and also very important not to take a setback as a pircha or a tiyufta. I mean, it's not like it's the end of the story, because you see that God calls on the banim Shovavim and he tells them shuvu. He's not saying that I want you to talk yourself into believing that you're not shovav. He doesn't say that. He says you are banim Shovavim, but nevertheless, that doesn't close the door and the option and the ability to return. And the return is something that, as I'm saying, it's a step-by-step thing. It's a step. Gaining self-control is an art. And it's something that it takes time to master, but it's definitely doable, and it definitely gives a person a sense of achievement and accomplishment that gives him a sense of self-respect, and he knows that in his mind that that's where he wants to be, and that's what he would want to accomplish, and he just has to try to make it happen. Yeah. So what do you think, Zach? I mean, it's not enough. I mean, as I say, it's easier said than done. But it's important, first of all, that these. What?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. So, is there anybody else that wants to say something?
Yeah, Jacob. I think Jacob wanted to ask.
Yeah, how are we supposed to approach our society? That wider society doesn't seem to value the same way. Inyanei, Shovavim, etc. How are we supposed to how are we supposed to approach that?
Well, I don't understand the question so clearly.
That when we're dealing with the rest of society, not the B'nai Torah society, how are we supposed to approach like their different approach of Inyanei Shovavim? Like they don't really seem to value it as much or at all.
Well, I mean, the values are really something that I think a person should. First of all, we shouldn't judge. Shouldn't judge. I mean, we should judge ourselves. I mean, the most important thing is if the question is, should I be influenced by the parts of society who don't care about certain things? Should I take that as a sign from heaven that these things are not important, or should I learn from this that somehow these ultra rabbis are misinterpreting the texts or misunderstanding the message of Judaism? Is that the question? Or what you have to define the question better.
The question that there's so many influences from the outside world, it's often difficult to deal with these issues because of the influence and the different
listen,
when you walk around, etc.
Right. Okay. So listen, if if your heart and mind are in the right place, what we consider the right place, and you see the influences as a challenge, well, how you're supposed to deal with it is how you're supposed to deal with all influences. I mean, there's an issue that sometimes people don't want to, like the Sefer Hasidim says, they don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be considered, misfits. They don't want to be considered, out of step with the ways of the world. But truth be told, that the ways of the world, if you look at it, are not so impressive. I mean, the thing is like this. So I'm just saying, if you're an insider, I mean, if you're an insider, in terms of of what our religion stands for, I mean, the influences from the outside have to be dealt with in a way that we can deal with them. But again, I'm not 100% sure what the question is. I'm not 100% sure what the question is. Yeah, Jacob, you understand what I'm saying? Or
I think you said like how
what you're saying.
How are we supposed to approach these challenges that we're insiders, but there are also times when we go out, we're also involved in the other, we see what's going on in the rest of the world. Or should we detach ourselves completely?
You're saying that it's enticing, or you're saying that it's convincing?
What's the nafkamina?
Well, it's a very, very broad nafkamina. The nafkamina is because there's a different approach to deal with enticement and a different approach to deal with convictions. I mean, if it's convincing, then it's then we have to deal with the logic, and we have to understand what Mo Hashem Elokecha shoel me'imcha. What does Hashem want from me? What does Hashem really want from me? So if it's convincing, we have an issue of figuring out what's right and what's wrong. But if it's enticing, it's not undermining my sense of right and wrong religiously, but it's appealing to my senses. No, so then I could call on my inner self to overcome the temptations. So it's a very, very big nafkamina. Part of the tachbulas hayetzer is actually to make it as if it's almost not a nafkamina, because the difference between logic and temptation is sometimes blurred in the world of the Yetzer Hara, because people convince themselves that what they want is really right. Or b'chlal, we live in a society where everything is self-serving. I mean, we don't the concept of that it's not all about it's not all about me and that I live for a purpose, is not so much part of what our society values and considers to be right. I mean, but so that's a long story. That's a long story. We're really on a different page. I mean, we Jews, we religious Jews, are not on the same page not even in the same book, as far as that's concerned. So there's a tremendous gap. I mean, there's no question. It's all right. So that's, yeah. It's not. It's like it's not al regel achas. I'm just wondering. The oilam over here is in Eretz Yisrael, is in Chutz La'aretz. What? Where are all of you located?
Most of the people on this call are Talmidim of Yeshivat HaKotel in yeshiva right now.
Right now.
Yes. Some of them are boys from Chutz La'aretz, alumni who've tuned in. And some of them are people who are connected to Lev Avram because it was sent out by them so that the tzibur could benefit from it. Yeah. But most of the boys, I would say 85% are Yeshivat HaKotel boys in yeshiva as we speak.
So they go to their room and they turn on their computer and they tune in.
Or their phone. You can do also on Zoom.
Amazing.
Rebbe, if I could ask you a question, I don't know how much time you have, but one question that I think our guys would really benefit from. Okay. Our guys come from modern Orthodox families, as you probably guessed. Okay. Modern Orthodox Tzioni families. Okay. They come to Eretz Yisrael. They're in a serious place. They want to be Emes Dika B'nai Torah. They want to be Emes Dika B'nai Torah. They don't want to be half. They want to be Emes Dika B'nai Torah. And the question is, they grew up where they grew up. You have so much experience helping people come B'nai Torah. What are the things you would tell them they need to step beyond what they're used to and grow beyond what they're used to stretch themselves to be real B'nai Torah?
Listen, I don't know the answer. I mean, you have much more experience, but I would say that the first thing is that they have to be open to the possibility. I'm not always sure that even when somebody comes here, that he's actually open to the possibility of transforming or changing, because I know that whether you're ultra or modern or centrist or anything, I mean, most people are not so open to change. Most people, are just continue with what they've been doing, and so the openness to the idea of change, of real change. I mean, I think that's if a person just allows himself to swim in the sea of Torah, I think if he allows himself with no reservations, in other words, he's not afraid that he'll frum out, not afraid that he'll become different. If he just, alleviates that fear, I think that things happen more or less naturally. Now, I'm not going to say that taking on everything that it's like this. There's some things that they're bringing to the table from let's say modern Orthodox homes that they shouldn't let go. I mean, it's not like everything in the ultra Orthodox world is so perfect. I mean, it's really about these boys have the ability, if they become true B'nai Torah, to actually add something to what you refer to as the ultra Orthodox world. It's so they have really a mission. It's a mission, and it's a mission that only, it's a unique mission that only they can actually accomplish. So listen, I think that the main thing is it's not about the labels, and it's about just not being just like it's not about the labels, not about being not about fearing labels. It's not like being afraid that I'm going to become something else. And if you're not afraid and you allow yourself to absorb, I think that's basically the whole thing, because the Torah speaks for itself. What do you say, Rabbi? I mean, is it?
I think everything you're saying is correct. And, a lot of times people like to fit HaKadosh Baruch Hu and whatever new things they're learning into what they already know. It's the easiest thing is to try and fit into what you already know, and you have to be ready to be something else. Whatever it is, wherever Hashem takes you. And I think what you're saying is also correct. Everyone comes with good things, and the goal is not to get rid of the good you have, but to learn the good, like you said, Mikol Adam, from other people. I think the challenge for guys who come from communities who aren't raised already with this sense that Torah is the only schoira, it's hard for them to step into that, to get that mindset, emuna in the baby's milk, so to speak. And this is where we need guidance from great people like yourself.
But look, if we think about the fact that we're now in the 2021, and we still have Yidden that are putting on tefillin every day and keeping Shabbos. It's really, I mean, it's something that has a lot to do with a value of limud haTorah that was always kept very, very, very much by Jewish communities all over the world. And wherever limud haTorah was lost, I mean, everything was gone. I mean, it's so. I mean, Torah only. I mean, it's not about Torah only, but it's about understanding that limud haTorah is the core of our of who we are, and without that, we're lost. Without that, we're lost. And if we stick to that, I mean, we the Jewish people revived itself over and over again through limud haTorah. I mean, and that's something that is very important to remember.
I want to ask you one more question, okay?
Yeah.
The question, it's a very important question, and I know you've spoken about it, but not with our Talmidim. What do you think the takeaways for us should be from this whole Maisa of the last year with COVID?
What I said, but most probably not something very meaningful, because listen, the point is, first of all, I have an aversion to the takeaways from current events. Listen, because people have a tendency to interpret. I mean, to interpret and to understand and to figure out. I mean, what does Hashem want? Now, listen, since the Tkufas HaNevuah is over, and I'm not such an onav to say that I'm such a shoiter that I qualify for the Nitna Nevuah L'Shoitim. So I don't want to say, I mean, what we could take, everybody could take away things. I mean, I hope that when we'll be able to hug each other again, we'll have more an appreciation for that than we had in the past. We'll understand that we shouldn't take anything for granted. I mean, we should have an appreciation for the sense of community and for being together, and we should we really, because you see, we get used to things and we don't value them. I mean, this is one thing that I feel that we should have a greater appreciation for those Pashta Zachen. I mean, that you could shake somebody's hand. I mean, we didn't have an appreciation for that, and when we'll be able to shake hands, we thought we should shake another Jew's hand. And we should be connected, and we should not distance ourselves. I mean, that's what I feel. I have feelings here and there all the time, but there's nothing that I think is important to say as a message. Everybody, I think the only message is that everybody should use his own mind and heart and be misbeinen. And what he could take away. I mean, it's not like you can make a chart of 1, 2, 3, 4, what you should take away from this thing. And that's my feeling.
I'm just going to mention two things that I remember you wrote in your letter when the corona first started that really impacted me, and I want to share it with my Talmidim. First of all, you spoke about the relationship between Rotzeach and Shmiras HaNefesh in the Rambam, that he juxtaposes them, and how critical it is that we're careful with the value of life. And the second thing you wrote is the contrast between the Siyum HaShas that had been just 3 months earlier, where it was Berabim, and the Yechidus of Corona. And you said the real Yadus is when we build ourselves as individuals and we know that our identity is ourselves, of course, with what you said now about appreciating community, but knowing that we have to be strong as individuals. And those
right, and that really connects with the whole topic of the Shovavim, because really it's a Mekadesh Shem Shamayim B'Seiser. Because look, I mean, the choices that people make in terms of Shmiras Ha'inayim and Shmiras Habris, I mean, are very, very personal and private. And that's really the connection, the meaningful connection that a Jew makes with the Rebbeinu Shalom when he's Mekabel Oil Malchus Shamayim in private has much more value than what he does in public, because that's where the real me faces my Creator, and that's why that's the bris, the bond, the covenant, and that's the Kol HaMekadesh Shem Shamayim B'Seiser that we say about Yosef HaTzadik. In any case, okay, with that, I think, Rabbi Say, we're going to sign off. You allow me, Rabbi?
Not that you need me to allow you, but I'll only allow after I get to thank you, now that you've actually given and shared with us, to thank you for everything we've received. And we greatly appreciate it, because it needs a lot of chizuk right now. You know, the world needs a lot of chizuk. Yeshivas need a lot of chizuk. And just to see someone like you and to hear your chizuk really helped us. Thank you.
Listen, for me, it's a chizuk. For me, it's a chizuk to see people, tune in. And that's a tremendous chizuk. There's definitely an interesting Yiddishkeit, and I hope it's growing.
I assume, Rebbe, that I can invite the boys to join the Thursday night Parsha shir. Anyone who wants. That gives me a lot of chizuk each week at 10 p.m. I assume the Bachrim can join.
Yes, 100%.
We have already alumni of ours who join each week. Okay, thank you, Rebbe.
Okay, thank you very much.